All right, like I said, we're going to be talking about our heart rate today. Your heart rate, boys and girls, is the amount of times that your heart beats in 1 minute. So we calculate that in what's called BPM, or beats per minute. Okay, so what we're looking for is how many times our heart can beat in 1 minute's time. Now, if we're resting, we're sitting, maybe we're watching TV, we just woke up from sleeping, anything like that, when we're not moving, we're not being active, that's what's called our resting heart rate. And depending on how old you are and depending on how much exercise you do on a normal basis can affect your resting heart rate. So typically, the more active you are and a little bit older you are, then the slower your heart rate will be at when you're looking for your resting heart rate. For example, Mr. Campbell's resting heart rate can be as low as 50 beats per minute. And that's a little bit on the lower end, the slow end, okay? For some of my kindergarten students, your resting heart rate might be closer to maybe 90 or 100 beats per minute. And that's okay because each person's body is a little bit different, okay? Now, I'm going to give you some guidelines on a resting heart rate. Your resting heart rate should be typically, for someone your age, between about 80 and 120 beats per minute. If it's lower than that, that's perfect. There's no issue with that, okay? If you're above 120 beats per minute for your resting heart rate, then we want to try and work our heart a little bit more over time so that eventually when we're resting, that resting heart rate will be lower, okay? Because remember, our heart is a muscle, and so the more we work it, the stronger it becomes. So we want it to be strong so that when we're resting, it does not take as much effort to get that blood, to get that oxygen to the rest of your body. So our resting heart rate, between 80 and 120 beats per minute. We want it to be nice and slow. Now, as we start moving and we are exercising, we're up and active. Now we're looking at what is called our active heart rate. And your active heart rate, boys and girls, is how fast your heart is beating during exercise, during activity. We are trying to elevate our heart rate during active times so that we can make our heart stronger, just as I was talking about a minute ago. So, the more we participate in activities that increase your heart rate, the stronger your heart's going to become. And one, the longer you'll be able to sustain or keep that elevated heart rate. And two, it'll make your heart stronger so that your resting heart rate, your heart doesn't have to work quite as hard, resting or active. And so your body can get that oxygen to your muscles more efficiently. So your active heart rate, boys and girls, for someone your age should be between about 120 beats per minute all the way up to 180 beats per minute. Okay, so when we're being active, we're moving, we want our heart rate to be higher than 120, but we don't want to get too much above 180 beats per minute. Okay, overworking your heart can lead to some heart problems, okay? And so we want to try to avoid that. Now, the more we work our hearts, the more efficient they become. That means that we're going to be less likely to have heart problems later on, okay? So as we get older, our veins and arteries can sometimes get blocked. Our heart muscles can get weak. And that can cause to some pretty serious issues later on. And so we want to work our hearts healthily by getting into that active target heart rate zone of 120 to 180 beats per minute pretty frequently. If we can do that for 30 minutes to an hour every day, then your heart is going to start to be really healthy. And it's going to last for a really long time, okay, as you grow older. Now let's talk really quick about how we can find our pulse. So my 3 through 5 students, you should already know how to do this. My kindergarten through second grade students, if you need some help, please ask your learning coach or whoever's at home with you for help. Okay, so there are 2 places on our body that we can find our pulse. Remember I said that our pulse is how we can determine our heart rate, it's how we can feel it. Okay, so the first place that we can feel our pulse is my preferred way to find it, because I find it to be a little bit easier, and that's on my wrist. So I'm going to turn my wrist or my hand palm facing up, and I'm going to stay on the thumb side. Okay, and we're going to be right here on the wrist. All right, so this area right here. Now, we're going to take the first 2 fingers on our opposite hand, so my pointer finger and my middle finger, okay, pointer finger and middle finger, and put them together, and we're going to use our fingertips to find our pulse. Now, like I said, on the thumb side of our wrist, we should be able to press down gently right on the side. Okay, we've got an artery or a vein that runs down our arm into our thumb. It's an artery. Runs into our thumb, and we can feel that pulsing, because remember our heart beats, it goes kind of like that as it functions. And so what we're feeling is the blood pulsing or moving through that artery. And so you can press down real gently right on the side of your wrist, and you might be able to feel that pulse. Okay? The other place to find it, which I have a little bit more difficulty finding it in this location, but I know that a lot of my students back at my home school found it a little bit easier to find it here, is actually on the side of your neck. Okay, so we've got another artery that runs from our heart up to our brain. Okay, and we're going to take those 2 fingers, first 2 fingers again, and it's right underneath the line of your jaw as it comes down towards your chin, below your ear. It's right here on the side. Okay, and it might take you a minute to find it. If you're talking, you're not going to be able to feel it. Okay, and you should be able to feel that pulse again, that bump that of your blood moving through that artery from your heart. Okay, so you can find your pulse in either of those 2 locations, either right here on your neck or on the side of your wrist. And what we're going to do is we want to find how many times our heart beats in 1 minute. So that's beats per minute. Now, when we do this, you could sit there and you could count the number of times you feel it in 1 minute, but 1, that takes more time. And 2, sometimes we can get false bumps, so we don't feel it accurately, or we lose count, and we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to shorten the amount of time that we're counting for. So we're actually only going to count for 6 seconds. So when we count for 6 seconds, that makes our math a little bit easier, because all we have to do is multiply by 10. Okay, 6 seconds times 10 gives me 60 seconds, which is 1 minute. And then I would take that same number, so however many times I felt my pulse, I'm going to count that, and I would multiply that number by 10. So if I got 12 times 10 would give me 120. So really all we have to do is add a 0 to the end of whatever number it is that we counted. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to find your pulse either on your wrist or on your neck. And when I say go, I want you to start counting the number of times you can feel your pulse. Again, if you need some help, ask for some help, okay? I'm going to give you about 5 more seconds to find your pulse. When I say go, start counting. Ready, set, go. stop. Okay, so you should have gotten a number. My number was 6. So I'm going to multiply 6 times 10. My beats per minute right now is 60. So my heart is beating about 60 times per minute, which is fine because I'm falling in that resting heart rate. I'm not active. I'm standing and I'm teaching, so I'm moving a little bit, but I'm not moving a whole lot. I'm not exerting myself. And so my pulse is a resting heart rate, or my heart rate is a resting heart rate, and so it's going to be lower. I'm falling between that 80 and 120 beats per minute. Okay? So you now have your resting heart rate, and what we're going to do is I'm going to send you over to do a Go Noodle video, and it's going to be several minutes long. And when you are finished, we're going to come back and we're going to find our pulse again and calculate our active heart rate. Okay? So jump on over, get to that Go Noodle video, have fun with it, participate as fully as you can, and then we'll come back and we will take that active heart rate again. All right, boys and girls, see you in a few minutes.